They weren't chasing danger, they were chasing normalcy, connection, routine, a few extra dollars. In this episode, we examine how ordinary live streams crossed an invisible line and captured the exact second survival disappeared. It was July 14, 2019, at Lake Havasu, Arizona. The sun was low, flattening the water into a dull copper sheet. Boats drifted farther out than usual, their motors idling as people gathered near the familiar cliff. The ledge was known locally for close calls and minor injuries, but serious incidents there were rarely documented. Marissa Cole was 31. She managed a lakefront bar 6 nights a week and taught yoga classes in borrowed studio space on weekday mornings. Her life was orderly and practical. She paid rent on time, rotated staff fairly, and stretched every morning before sunrise. She streamed occasionally from her phone, usually for regulars who asked what the lake looked like or wanted proof she was really off work. This time was different. She went live specifically to record the jump, setting the phone so viewers could see the ledge and the water below. She didn't chase viewers or sponsorships. Her only pressure came from herself, from wanting a quiet, definitive moment before summer slipped away. She knew the cliff and had jumped it twice years earlier when the lake was deeper. That summer, seasonal water releases downstream lowered the lake by about 34 inches. Old painted warning stones were exposed and scattered, no longer reliable markers. No signage had been updated. Locals adjusted quietly. Visitors didn't. That evening, Marissa titled the stream, "One Last Jump Before Sunset." The words were casual, almost apologetic. A few dozen viewers joined. Some typed warnings about water levels. Others asked her to angle the camera. She shrugged, smiling, saying she'd done this before. Heat fatigue and familiarity lowered her caution. She didn't test the water. She didn't climb down to visually check the depth. She adjusted the phone strap around her wrist and stepped forward. Wind came off the lake in short bursts. Boats drifted closer, their occupants watching. A pair of swimmers below waved, assuming she was jumping feet first. No one shouted a warning. She raised her arms, leaned, and dove cleanly, body straight and confident. From the cliff, it looked controlled. Less than a second after entering the water, the crown and upper forehead of her skull struck a submerged limestone shelf. The impact abruptly halted forward motion. Her neck hyperflexed, and the cervical spine failed at the base of the skull. The fracture began at the hairline and radiated backward as the skull compressed against immovable stone. The phone camera filled with bubbles, then a dense red plume of blood from scalp and nasal vessels. There was no kick, no thrashing. Loss of muscle control was immediate. Her body resurfaced face down within seconds, carried upward by displaced air in her lungs. The camera stayed live, half submerged, recording ripples and muffled shouts. 2 swimmers reached her first, flipping her over. Her eyes were open. There was no blinking or tracking. Blood streamed from her nose and scalp into the lake. Emergency services were called immediately. Witnesses pulled her toward the rocks, but she never responded. Rescue crews arrived about 11 minutes later and halted resuscitation due to obvious fatal injuries. The coroner ruled the death catastrophic head trauma with brainstem disruption at impact. Drowning was ruled out. The stream ended when a responder removed the phone from her wrist and set it aside. The footage circulated quietly among emergency workers before anyone else saw it, used briefly for internal incident review. The bar Marissa managed closed for 2 days. Staff left flowers along the back dock where she used to sit after closing. Locals placed painted rocks near the cliff to mark the new water line, uneven but unmistakable. The county installed permanent depth signs the following month. They cited safety review requests prompted by responder footage. The lake stayed low. The cliff stayed the same. The next death wouldn't come from nature or leisure, but from routine work carried out high above the street where old equipment and delayed fixes finally gave way. It was September 3rd, 2014. Downtown Cleveland was already warm by mid-morning, heat pressing against concrete and glass. The office tower on Euclid Avenue looked ordinary, its windows dulled by years of grime. Donna Whitlock arrived early, secured her harness, checked her lines, and started streaming before the city fully woke. Donna was 42, a union window cleaner with 17 years on high-rise crews across northern Ohio. She had started in her 20s, following an older cousin into the trade because it paid steadily and didn't require college debt. She was careful, methodical, and and known among co-workers for refusing shortcuts. At home, she was a single mother raising a teenage son who had begun asking what her job actually involved. The live stream wasn't for fame, it was for him. She worked for a regional maintenance contractor that handled multiple downtown properties, many of them aging towers kept operational through deferred repairs. Inspection logs existed, but fixes were often postponed until failure. Dana understood the risks. She also understood pressure. Building management wanted the windows finished before a prospective tenant walked through later that week. Her union rep had raised concerns. The job went forward anyway. High-rise window cleaning depended on redundant rigging, a primary steel cable, and a secondary safety line anchored to rooftop davits. That morning, inspections showed corrosion and internal fatigue on the main cable. The backup line, recently reinstalled, had excess slack, reducing its ability to arrest a fall safely. The assignment that day involved the upper 20 floors, where exposure to wind and heat was more pronounced. Conditions were clear, but overnight thermal expansion had increased tension at the rooftop davits. As Dana descended, she felt a mild but unfamiliar sway in the platform when she shifted her weight. She paused, adjusted her stance, and continued working, the movement settling but not fully disappearing. Minutes later, as she repositioned again, the primary support cable failed. The break occurred at the anchor sleeve, where corrosion had weakened the internal strands beyond visible detection. The cable snapped without warning. Dana dropped suddenly, falling just over 3 floors before the secondary line engaged. Because the safety line carried excess slack, the arrest was abrupt. Her fall stopped within roughly 18 inches, forcing the line across her lower rib cage and abdomen under full body weight. The line did not cut. Instead, it acted as a rigid fulcrum, violently bending her torso forward. Her thoracic spine fractured and dislocated, severing the spinal cord and immediately eliminating muscle control and respiration. Her camera struck the glass and scraped downward before stopping. The live stream showed her body hanging motionless in the harness, folded forward over the line. There was no movement, no attempt to grab the rigging. Her head remained sharply flexed, consistent with catastrophic spinal disruption rather than laceration or decapitation. Emergency services were called within seconds. Another cleaner on a lower platform shouted her name but got no response. Emergency services arrived approximately 8 minutes later. Fire crews raised an aerial ladder, but there was no sign of life when they reached her. The coroner later explained the injuries in plain terms. The abrupt stop broke Dana's spine at the mid-chest level. The spinal cord was completely severed, eliminating breathing and voluntary movement instantly. Loss of consciousness would have occurred within seconds due to neurological shock. There was no evidence she experienced prolonged pain after the arrest. Internal organs showed displacement and bruising from extreme compression, but there were no defensive injuries and no signs of struggle. Death was immediate. The building closed for the rest of the day. Inspectors documented the corroded primary cable and improperly tensioned secondary line. The live stream footage, synced with security camera timestamps, showed the exact failure sequence from cable snap to arrest point. Months later, Dana's son testified in a civil case using the building's own maintenance records. The footage was entered as evidence. The tower eventually replaced all exterior rigging and revised its inspection intervals. Dana Whitlock's death showed how safety systems fail when pressure replaces maintenance. In Boise, the risk wouldn't come from height or machinery, but from lifting alone, where a single mistake left no room to recover. It was March 22, 2019, in Boise, Idaho. Melting snow left damp concrete and cold air drifting into open garages. Kayla Jensen's garage door stood half raised for light. The quiet afternoon held only the scrape of rubber plates, a bar settling into steel, and the low hum of her phone streaming nearby. Kayla was 19, a first-year community college student balancing general education classes with part-time shifts at a local sporting goods store. She had found powerlifting during her senior year of high school after a physical therapy referral for a knee injury. The structure appealed to her. Numbers were honest. Bars either moved or they didn't. She trained alone most evenings, following programs she downloaded from small competitive lifting forums. Her stream existed for accountability more than attention. She averaged fewer than 20 viewers, most of them other amateur lifters checking her form between their own sets. She was registered for her first amateur meet scheduled 6 weeks out. Her coach, a volunteer strength instructor at the college gym, had advised conservative progression. That week, Kayla was behind. Midterms had cut into training time. She had also recently accepted a small discount partnership with a local supplement shop that reposted her clips, adding quiet pressure to show progress. The garage setup was basic: a steel power rack bolted to the slab, a barbell she'd owned since high school, mismatched plates collected over time, and no safety pins or spotter arms installed inside the rack. That afternoon, Kayla planned to test a new top weight on a back squat, not a deadlift. The temperature outside hovered just above freezing, making the concrete floor slick with condensation. She lifted without a spotter, something she had done dozens of times before. While loading the bar, she miscounted one side, adding an extra 5-pound plate to the left. The imbalance wasn't obvious once the collars were tightened. In chat, viewers noticed the load looked heavy and began counting reps aloud as she ducked under the bar. She unracked cleanly, the bar resting across her upper back just below the base of her neck, and stepped backward into position. The descent was controlled. At the bottom of the squat, her hips slowed. As she drove upward, her legs shook. At full extension, fatigue set in. The uneven load caused the bar to rotate and roll upward along her back. As she tried to recenter it, the bar slipped high and struck the back of her head at the base of the skull. Her neck snapped backward under the combined force of the shifting bar and her own body weight. The sudden hyperextension fractured the upper cervical spine instantly. Kayla dropped straight down. Her knees buckled and her torso collapsed without resistance. Her eyes remained open, unfocused. The bar slid free and crashed onto the concrete, bouncing once before settling. The sound echoed through the garage. There was no gasp, no attempt to brace, no movement afterward. The stream continued. Viewers typed her name repeatedly, assuming a failed rep. One viewer noticed her chest was not rising. Another suggested calling emergency services. A neighbor across the street, drawn by the sound of the dropped bar, stepped into the garage and froze. He called 911 within a minute. Paramedics arrived approximately 9 minutes later, finding no pulse and no spontaneous breathing. Given the obvious fatal trauma, resuscitation was not attempted. The coroner's report later listed the cause of death as a high cervical spine fracture with spinal cord transection. The injury occurred at the C2 level, immediately stopping breathing and consciousness. Death was instantaneous. There were no defensive injuries and no signs of prolonged suffering. The footage was reviewed by campus safety officers and her coach. The bar position, uneven loading, and absence of safety equipment were clearly visible on video. The college gym updated its policies the following semester, requiring spotters or safety pins for all heavy barbell lifts. Kayla's coach used still frames from the video during safety briefings, with her parents' permission, as a straightforward example of how quickly control can be lost and how little margin exists when lifting alone. We've got more live stream tragedies ahead. So subscribe if you want to see how ordinary streams can turn fatal in real time, without warning and without a chance to cut away. It was November 18th, 2020, in Ybor City, Tampa, Florida. The night was warm and crowded, music leaking from bars as pedestrians drifted between bright storefronts and unlit side streets. Luis Moreno walked with a phone strapped to his chest, speaking casually, unaware the live stream was approaching an irreversible end. Luis was 29 and worked delivery jobs for restaurants and pharmacies across Tampa. Streaming Night Walk supplemented his income and required little more than a phone, a stabilizer, and mobile data. He averaged 50 to 70 viewers, mostly regulars, and accepted small donations that allowed chat to choose his route. He avoided confrontation, crossed streets early, and ended streams if anything felt unsafe, a habit formed after witnessing minor altercations during earlier walks, keeping costs low and viewers comfortable during late hours most nights after work. His stream relied on real-time engagement, with donations steering his route block by block. A standard 2-second delay filtered technical issues, but offered no real-world protection. He carried spare batteries and monitored signal strength, following platform rules to maintain small sponsorships that provided visibility, not safety. That evening was busier than usual due to a midweek event. Partial street closures funneled pedestrians into narrower routes, increasing foot traffic in some areas while leaving others unexpectedly empty. Earlier, police advisories warned of disturbances after dark, including reports of armed robberies several blocks away. Luis mentioned the crowd on stream but continued, trusting familiarity with the area and the presence of nearby businesses still open with staff inside as a perceived buffer. As tips came in, viewers steered him toward quieter scenery. One donation redirected him down a side street with broken lighting and closely parked cars. Luis hesitated briefly, scanned ahead, and proceeded. The stream delay meant multiple warnings typed in. Chat had not yet reached his screen as he entered the darker block, where his footsteps echoed louder than the fading music behind him. City surveillance cameras covered the intersection ahead. A man stood partially hidden between parked vehicles, positioned near the driver's side door of a sedan, watching Luis approach. Several bystanders later reported noticing movement but assuming it was someone waiting for a ride. Luis continued narrating, eyes forward, pace unchanged as ambient noise dropped suddenly, and the street felt abruptly empty despite nightlife continuing less than 2 blocks away. The man stepped out and raised a handgun. 2 shots were fired in rapid succession. The first round entered Luis's upper right chest, puncturing the lung and causing it to collapse immediately, preventing normal breathing rather than stopping airflow entirely. The second struck the front of his neck, lacerating major blood vessels and destroying the airway. The sharp reports caused the camera to jolt violently as his body reacted reflexively. Luis dropped to his knees. He attempted to inhale, but could not draw air past the damaged airway. Blood poured from his neck and mouth, soaking the front of his hoodie. His hands moved weakly toward his throat, then slipped. He fell forward onto the pavement, camera still chest-mounted. The frame showed concrete inches from his face as blood spread rapidly beneath him. Muscle movement diminished within seconds as oxygen deprivation and blood loss progressed, and audio captured wet, choking sounds fading out. People on the next block heard the shots and ran toward the intersection. A nearby woman called emergency services within seconds. The shooter fled on foot. The stream continued briefly, broadcasting uninterrupted until the phone battery depleted. Police arrived approximately 4 minutes later, followed by paramedics, who found no intact airway to secure and severe external bleeding that could not be controlled in the field. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The medical examiner determined death resulted from rapid hemorrhage combined with complete airway destruction. Consciousness likely lasted between 10 and 15 seconds, consistent with witness accounts and footage. The chest wound alone may have been survivable with immediate trauma care, but the neck injury made survival impossible. Investigators used surveillance footage, dispatch timestamps, and archived chat logs to reconstruct the route. Viewers recognized the street from earlier streams and provided corroborating details. The shooter was identified and arrested within days after coordinated public tips. Luis Moreno died on a street he had walked before. The final case would unfold just as quietly, on a city sidewalk where a missing cover turned an ordinary step into a fatal drop. It was April 9th, 2019, in downtown Newark, New Jersey. The morning rain had thinned to a steady drizzle, enough to darken pavement and soften sound. Traffic moved slowly. Umbrellas clustered near storefronts, and most people watched their footing without thinking about what might be missing beneath it. Tanya Brooks was 34 years old and worked as a retail visual merchandiser for regional clothing chains. Her job involved styling mannequins, coordinating seasonal displays, and advising store managers on layout. She streamed short city walks to get real-time feedback on outfits she assembled herself, treating it like a moving fitting room. She averaged a few dozen viewers, mostly other retail workers and fashion students. Tanya was cautious by nature. She avoided nightlife streams and never chased shock content. The platform occasionally promoted her streams under a local lifestyle category, and a small boutique brand had begun sending her discounted accessories in exchange for tags. Her setup was simple: a phone on a handheld stabilizer, a portable battery, and earbuds. She walked familiar routes and stayed aware of traffic signals and crowds. That afternoon, she planned a short walk between 2 shopping corridors, showing a rain-ready outfit she had assembled for spring inventory. The weather made the stream slightly riskier than usual, but she considered it manageable. Earlier that day, a municipal utility subcontractor had removed a manhole cover to access underground lines and left the site unattended. The opening was approximately 24 inches in diameter and over 12 feet deep. No barricades or cones were placed. Light rain collected on the sidewalk, turning patches of concrete into reflective pools. The open manhole blended into the dark surface, appearing no different than shallow water. Tanya read chat as she walked, responding to comments about fabric texture and shoe choice. Several viewers typed warnings about the dark patch ahead, noticing the absence of a visible rim or cover, but the stream delay meant she did not see them. As she approached the intersection, foot traffic thinned. A bus passed, spraying water across the curb. Her stabilizer dipped slightly as she adjusted her grip. She stepped forward mid-sentence, and her leading foot found no surface, causing her center of gravity to tip forward. She vanished from the frame in a straight vertical drop without any sign of slipping or scrambling. The phone dropped with her. The stream recorded a rapid rush of air followed by a single dull, hollow impact, echoing up the shaft as her body struck the concrete base head first with her neck flexed forward. The camera landed tilted against the wall, still streaming. Rainwater dripped steadily into the opening. Tanya did not move or make any sound. Witnesses called emergency services within seconds, reporting a fall into an open manhole with no movement visible below. The live stream continued uninterrupted, showing the concrete wall and falling rain. Emergency responders arrived approximately 5 minutes after the call. Firefighters descended using a ladder and confirmed she had no pulse. Paramedics performed a rapid assessment but did not initiate resuscitation due to the extent of visible head trauma. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The footage, combined with nearby traffic cameras, documented the fall clearly from start to finish. The medical examiner later reported extensive skull fractures involving the frontal and parietal bones, caused by direct impact with the concrete base. The force caused immediate brain swelling and massive internal bleeding incompatible with survival. Death occurred on impact, with no evidence of purposeful movement after the fall. The manhole was sealed that evening. Investigators confirmed it had been left open during routine maintenance with no barriers or warnings. The city later settled with Tanya's family, and the contractor's license was revoked after safety violations. Temporary barriers became mandatory for similar work sites. Thanks for watching. If you like these stories, click here.